admitted in KNUST, at that time, University of Science and Technology. I was lucky to read civil engineering. So 1980 to 1985, I came out with Bachelor of Science degree in civil engineering. 1985, 3 months afterwards, after graduation, I was privileged to have some vacation training with Ghana Highway Authority. At that time, the mobile maintenance unit was working on the offensive road, which I had the privilege to work with them. Then, after the vacation training, which lasted about 3 months, Ghana Highway Authority, I did my in-service training there, had a 21-month training with Ghana Highway Authority. And in 1987, I was posted to the Northern Region, Tamale, as the road maintenance engineer in charge of the Northern Region.
Now, engineering, as Chairman said, you have a reputation for engineering. Your political public life, what have you been doing? You were pouring concrete and asphalt on the road. Then you came and joined us in the difficult world of politics. What have been your role in Parliament?
Well, in Parliament, when I entered first in January 2009, I was on the Committee on Roads and Transport, and I was the deputy ranking member for Committee on Roads and Transport, and I was also a member of the House Committee. In my second term, I was the ranking member of the same committee, Committee on Roads and Transport. And I was also a member of the House Committee. Then my third term, currently, I'm the chairman of the Committee of Roads and Transport and a member of the Subsidiary Legislation Committee.
So we should expect that you relinquish that chairmanship to allow for proper oversight. Is that the case?
Very well, very well.
Chairman, since the nominee, if Chairman permitted me, I'll look at your CV. There are instances that you are generous to tell us that BCRC, Ashanti. Then instances that you just say BCRC near Ejisu. So, is it BCRC Ashanti or BCRC near Ejisu?
It's BCRC near Ejisu in Ashanti region.
So, when you go to page 2, where you have 1964 to 70, I see BCRC, the next BCRC. Then in the first page, I see you now BCRC near Ejisu, where you were born. Is that the same place you are referring to?
Yeah, rightly so, the same place.
And then, Chairman, you appear, maybe your style, you appear very detailed. But we know that the details you have provided show less of what you have been doing. It falls short of what you've been doing. So if you say appointed resident engineer on Sefi area roads rehabilitation, don't you think it's enough? Because if I check, and between Sefi and Bibiani to Bekwai, you did even 1 kilometer. You would not have given us...
Not my Bekwai, that's Sefi Bekwai.
Chama is qualifying Sefi Bekwai. But just to guide you, September 1987, January 1984, appointed road maintenance engineer in charge of Northern Region. For our purposes, I think that should be enough. But you have gone an extra mile to provide detail. October 1985, in the same fashion, finally on the CV, again like the BCRC thing, in some instances, he says January 7, 2013 to date. And then you refuse to give us a distinction between 6th Parliament and 7th Parliament. But you do the correct thing just beneath it. January 7, 2009 to January 6, 2013. So maybe we can learn and correct it from that. Chairman, I'm done with CV. I don't know if any of our colleagues have something to do with that.
Yes, Honorable President.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and congratulations. ranking member. When I served on the Roads and Transport Committee in the 6th Parliament, he was one of our leaders, ranking member. And as Chairman has said, there is no doubt about his competence. Actually, some of us believe that he has been demoted. So we know it's just the beginning, and there are good times ahead. So I want to congratulate the Honorable Kwabena Owusu-Aduome. I just want for our records, the communication from His Excellency the President has Kwabena Owusu-Aduome, not hyphenated. But on your CV, Owusu-Aduome is hyphenated. For our records, which one should we use?
It should be hyphenated. It's a compound name. Owusu hyphenated Aduome.
And I made an interesting discovery on your CV only when it came to the last page, awards and honors, that you were awarded the Regional Best Farmer for Piggery for the Western Region in 1999. But nowhere does it feature on your CV. Employment, work experience, hobbies, nothing. You don't touch on pig farming at all. But for the award, we wouldn't know about that. What do you say to that? And are you still into pig farming? You still have a pig farm?
No, when I was on the Sefi area road projects, I took interest in rearing pigs as a means of supplementing my income, and also just for the fun of it.
Is it just for income or for consumption sometimes?
No, I don't eat pork.
Okay.
I don't eat pork.
For him to make
So I took the delight in rearing pigs, and I did it for many years. In 1999, that I had the award, I had more than 200 pigs. So when the inspection team came, and the way the place was neat, I've housed them, I was giving them food well, they gave me that award. But later on, I had to stop because the marketing wasn't good at all. Because when the pigs are grown up and you take them to Kumasi, they will remove the head, they remove the lower limbs, they remove the intestines, and what remains, they refer to as the carcass weight, is what is for you, they weigh and pay you. So I was not making profit, so I had to stop.
But you provided excitement for those who enjoyed.
Exactly so, exactly so.
Chairman,
if there were many Chinese in Ghana then, like, you wouldn't stop.
Well, it's true because when you carry them in bulk, the difficulty was how to store them. I even came to Tema to see a company if they could come with the vehicle that has got a refrigerator so that I supply them. But because of the distance from Tema to Sefi, Bekwai was the distance, so they were not interested. When you are right, maybe if the Chinese were around that time, we would have had a market, so the interest would have been going on.
Chairman, if the nominee Owusu-Aduome, Chairman, I didn't get fufu and Krantia, so you can forgive my pronunciation. Let me congratulate you and wish you well. I intend to ask just 2 questions. One is to note that your minister shares about the same temperament with you, very calm. We do not anticipate conflict, and we do not anticipate undermine. Your minister, a very trained lawyer. You followed the debate on the floor of Parliament when engineers versus the law. We expect you that you add the engineering to help the efficiency and management of the minister to deliver in making Ghana a transport hub. My question is one. It's about changing trends in road infrastructure development. We've seen it happen in Cocoa roads, we've seen it happen in feeder roads, and we've seen it happen in some urban roads. You choose your words. I don't know all of it. some surfacing, resurfacing, dressing, asphalt. There are instances where the state spends a lot of money just to pour gravel on the road. Then you do that continuously for 4 years. For me, honestly, it makes no value for money sense to me. That if you took the same road and probably decided to do 1 kilometer, 2 kilometer, third, it's better than the amount of money you would have spent in 3-4 years just doing your work, surfacing or resurfacing, and it's not third. That affects the value of road projects generally. And even in the chamber, as we approved your budget, the majority leader raised it. The cost of roads projects, uniformity. If you are constructing a road in Sefibekwai and the same road in Binduri or Garutampane, where the cost of cement may be different, the cost of other materials may be different. What will be your professional take on this matter? Are we getting value for money? Can we get it? And what will you do to support your minister to ensure that? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Your question is in many parts. Let me first touch on the types of roads work that we do. Where you indicated that we put gravel and it will be better for us to tar 1 kilometer, and we have an activity called regraveling. Regraveling is done on roads that are low trafficked. For instance, in 1989, when there was a storm in the north, we had to repair the whole of Fufuso Damongo-Sola Road. It was in a gravel state. We left it in a gravel state because at that time the traffic level was low. Now, Fufuso Damongo-Sola Road is tarred because the traffic levels have gone up. So it's where we have low traffic levels that we do regraveling. Yes, you are right. On such gravel roads, we grade it and you do not compact them. Then you lose the gravel after a rain or two. So in no time, you come back, you lose the gravel on the surface and you come back to the same state. So I think we are right in saying that. But if you do our routine maintenance well, if it is a gravel road and you grade and you have adequate gravel on it, then you need to water and compact so that you maintain the gravel on the surface. Ghana has about 77% of our roads in the gravel state. It's difficult to get all these roads done in a short period. So definitely some of the roads will be in gravel state. But it's the maintenance that is important. We need to define the right maintenance for any particular road. You spoke of asphalt roads. Asphalt roads normally are roads that has the traffic that we have are heavy other loads, like the trunk roads, the central spine, Accra, Kumasi, Techiman, to Tamale, to Paga. These are the trunk roads. All the coastal roads that we have, Aflao through Accra to Elubo, where we have significantly high other loads. Then you go for asphaltic concrete because you need stronger pavements that will be able to withstand the other loads. Where you have surface dressing, it means you have enough traffic levels, but the other loads are such that surface dressing will do. And indeed, it all depends on the pavement thickness that you select. You talk of value for money. It's important that when you construct roads, we should have value for money. I remember I was a resident engineer on Bekwai Sefi Road. It was completed in 1999. You go there today, there is no single pothole on that road because that road was well supervised. I saw the road 3 times a day. When I'm going to work in the morning, in the afternoon, I go on inspection, and when I close, I also look at it again. So it all boils down to supervision, effective supervision, strong supervision.
Are you assuring this committee that when you get the note, you strengthen supervision to ensure value?
Exactly, that was where I was coming to. That it's important that the ministry strengthens its supervision. Although the ministries, the implementing agencies do have some challenges in terms of resources. I believe once the projects, the nation spends a lot of money in awarding contracts, we need to find money to strengthen supervision so that the nation gets value for money.
Chairman, my final will be more a commentary. If you go to Northern Region, the offices of urban roads, feeder roads, you just spoke about supervision and inspection. They cannot even afford vehicles to travel around to inspect this road. And my attention was drawn by an engineer that in building up the contracts, some percentage is dedicated for them to procure vehicles. I don't know what your thinking is. I think that is wrong. We should find a way to equip the ministry with its own vehicles for distribution like we do for many. But Chairman, my worry is a constituency-specific matter, Ghana Highways. On the Yendi Road, I have problems between Zobao, Nantongzo up to Wamale, and on Salaga from Jerigo through San Jerigo. Lives of school people being lost out of overspeeding and livestock. I've written formally to highways, and it's taking me days, a month. I'm sure many other colleagues may be suffering same fate. Can you assure this committee that in order to protect lives and livestock, you will ensure expeditious intervention of these institutions under your ministry?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. It's important that we protect lives, although we provide road facilities. The infrastructure is not there to kill us. It's there for us to, it's for the economy to grow and to make us also grow as well. So once there are evidence that people are lives have been lost, and there is police reports, it means that the implementing agencies, Ghana Highway Authority, has every right to construct speed tables in some rumble strips to reduce the vehicular speeds so that school children are safe. So I give a promise that we will ensure that we reduce the vehicular speed of motorists to save lives on that section of the road. I know Wamale, I think that's the junction you branch to Indi, if I'm right, when you are going on the Salaga Road.
So send highways there when you get there to go and solve the problem. Chairman, thank you. He knows the terrain very well. Chairman, this one, I said 2 questions, so I'm done. But in moving the motion for the road sector, there were 3 issues you raised that you are unhappy about, which is indicated in contractual agreements on the commencement certificate from the Ministry of Finance. Can you throw light on it and what you want done about them?
The fitting conditions of contract makes provision for advanced mobilization loan for contractors. It depends on the employer. If the employer wants his job to move on, then the employer will assist the contractor with an advanced mobilization loan, which is interest-free. The commencement certificate that the Ministry of Finance has been issuing out, because the government was limited with funds, stressed out with funds, decided not to allow for any advanced mobilization loan. And it's the duty of the contractor to source for funds to execute the job. My take is that if the government has money to give advanced mobilization loan, it's all well and good. But if the government hasn't got money, the contractor in tendering indicates how he or she will fund the project. So the contractor, any projects awarded to a contractor show clearly how he or she will fund the road. So if the contractor does not get advanced mobilization loan, he should be able to do the work. The second issue was not paying interest on delay payment. That I do not agree with the ministry as contained in the commencement certificate, because it's contractual. That if the employer defaults in paying the contractor within the stipulated period stated in the conditions of contract, some projects 56 days, some projects 91 days. So if for 91 to pay interest, then it should be stated at the time of tendering. When the contractor buys the tender document, you indicate that I will not be able to pay interest. And the contractor will have to factor that will be on him or her in the rates that the contractor will provide. So that if interests are not paid, the contractor knew from the beginning. It's not when the project or the contract has been awarded and you have to issue commencement certificate that you should indicate that you not pay interest. That was wrong. And that's why we urge the House to let the Minister of Finance have another look. That was what we said, another look at that.
Is it based on your understanding that you know for certain that, for instance, there are contractors today who for 1 year up to 1.5 years have not been paid entitlements from the same Ministry of Finance?
Yes, I know. Even some IPCs have been delayed more than a year. Even those who cut grass along our roads, some 19, 20 months. Even routine maintenance, where the value is not even more than 3,000 cedis, is delayed for more than 20 months. So I know that contracted certificates are delayed, and therefore they are entitled for interest on delay payment. I do not agree at all with the conditions that were stated in the conditions of contract, the commencement certificate, sorry.
Honorable Kujo, you want to ask a question?
I'm most grateful, Mr. Chairman. I have only 2 questions for the Honorable Osueduome. The first one has to do with this whole controversy around the cost of road construction. There is a view out there that the matter is becoming politicized. And I remember last year, President Mahama became famous for talking about political quantity surveyors. What's the education you can give us about how projects are costed and how we can demystify this whole issue of the cost of road projects so that we can build confidence and there can be some transparency around the matter?
If the nation decides to procure our works by open competitive bidding, then all eligible contractors will put in their bids. You will definitely have your project costs even lower than the projected cost of the engineer. But in a situation where we give the privilege to only one contractor to put in his bid, which we call sole sourcing, then the contractor has all the contractor will have to put in a rate that he or she thinks he should put in. No competitiveness. And if you go by sole sourcing all the time, then you have high project costs. But if you go by open competitive tender, because the contractors who are eligible will win, will buy the bids and tender, definitely, even if the contractor's bid is low, you will definitely get a very good contractor to do it. In evaluating the bids, if you are as low as 30, 40%, it becomes unreasonable. So there's no way that those who are evaluating the bids will give you. But we know that if you go open competitive tendering, at least the government can save about 5 to 10% of the engineer's projected costs for the project. So for me, it's open tender. That is the solution for all this. Sole sourcing, it should be restricted if possible.
Mr. Chairman, my last question. I was going to ask a follow-up about the funding arrangement, when people secure their own funding, when contractors secure their own funding, how he thinks we can go around it. But maybe you can box that to my second question. You can add that to my second question, which has to do with a list of projects contained in the 2017 budget, paragraph 510, page 93. I don't know if you have a copy of the 2017 budget here, but it's very, very dear. Some of these projects are very, very dear to us in the Volta region. The new bridge over the Volta River, the Volivo to Dofo Adidome Bridge. I don't know if you have been briefed and the assurances you can give. I see also here some of the Eastern Corridor roads, the whole main roads, whole bypass, and all of that.
Hello there, it's good to come your way like I always say. Let me take you through the top stories this hour. Youth in New Takoradi vow to put their lives on the line for improvement of road networks in the area as assembly members accuse GAPOA of shirking its social responsibilities. We bring you details of their massive protest earlier today and the response which followed. Also, if you have been waiting for to hear the recommendations of the Special Parliamentary Committee that investigated the bribery scandal in Parliament, you'll have to wait a while longer because Parliament has postponed the debate on the report till tomorrow. We'll tell you why. Also, the March bonds are in town, so the saying goes for every month. Well, President Akufo-Addo was born 73 years ago today. That's the 29th of March. We'll tell you what the president has been doing on his birthday and what messages Ghanaians are sending through to him. Well, those are the top stories. My name is Gifty Andopia. This is The Pulse. Please be my guest. At this point, by the way, we're going back to Parliament, where vetting of Kwabena Aduomi, who is Deputy Roads and Highways Minister Designate, is ongoing right now.
On our roads, some of the certificates have been delayed for more than 12 months. As we are speaking now, on trunk roads, I think routine maintenance, pothole patching, like what you have spoken of, it has been delayed by more than 12 months. So if contractors are not paid early, you even award the project to the contractor, but you will not get money to mobilize the site to do the work. And that is the problem. But if you are able to put premium, say that we will do 100% maintenance on our roads, then the MPA will not, should not be responsible for pothole patching, grading gravel surfaces, and others. So it all depends on people.
You want us to say that so that we don't come back. If you say that you're not responsible for roads, that will follow you till you leave back.
Ideally, it's not the MP who should use common fund to patch potholes. It should be done by the implementing agencies. So it was because of payment. Outstanding payments were huge. As we are speaking now, road fund, as at the end of December, owed contractors to the tune of 506 million Ghana cedis. So if contractors' money are delayed, definitely it will be very difficult for them to come on our roads and work for us. All we are praying for is that we are able to pay them, improve their cash flows, so that the work that they are supposed to do for us on our roads, they go there to do for us, so that we don't spend our monies on pothole patching and grading.
Actually, I was talking about the railway staff who should be on the road patching. The staff of the railway, what do you call it, highway, are they not supposed to be doing the work?
They're supposed to. They're supposed to do patching. They're supposed to cut grass along the road. They're supposed to desilt the drains. They're supposed to do all the necessary routine maintenance works. And as I said, it's because of payment. It's the delay in paying them.
My second question is about manifesto promise. On page 77 of NPP manifesto, it's been stated that government, we will tar all the roads, especially in the areas of high agricultural production and tourism, and also tar roads in district capitals and extend them to the major towns within the districts. Looking at the budget, I don't know whether I haven't seen it well, but I haven't seen any specific allocation for this aspect. of managing our roads. So I want to know whether, first of all, are the monies earmarked, if they are, for new roads or for roads that were started but were not completed? Thank you.
Well, I don't know whether if you have the committee's report on Ministry of Roads and Highways. There was a table that indicated the programs that the ministry was supposed to do. Let me quickly go through this. On the committee's report, page number 7, I don't know whether you have a copy here, but we have road rehabilitation and maintenance. There was an allocation of 151.736 million. Road and bridge construction, 300.18 million. And you have road safety and environment, also an allocation. So although the allocations seem not to be huge enough to do all, that manifesto promise that you indicated is to be taken care of by these allocations.
All right. Robert Abaji, you are not a member of the committee, but he's your friend, so I'll allow you. If you don't ask a friendly question, it's up to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Engineer Usu Adiomi, congrats. I know we both worked on the Sefi Bekwai Road. Yep. When you were talking, you said you were going on the inspection morning, afternoon, evening. I assume you were doing your work that way because you were happy supervising. Now, and okay, because I would say the government was taking care of you when you were doing your work, you were happy. Now you go on projects, and the allowance they pay the resident engineers for being there is nothing to write home about. Those who go for site, monthly site meetings every month, sometimes they don't get any allowance. What will you do to ensure, which is part of what the minority leader said, that they get enough vehicles on the projects? Number 2, those in the head office, those in the regional offices get enough means of transport to go for the site meetings. Number 3. No, oh no, they all have to. Okay, not the question. I said, no, they are inbuilt into that operation.
So now he has got it. He will answer.
What will you do to help those you've left behind to do the work you did and you were happy doing? That's my question.
The Superior Roads project, it wasn't because I was being taken care of good by the government. It has been the same situation as you knew. Me, resident engineer, my assistants, and all the staff, at that time, when we put our salaries together, it was not even up to the project manager of the contractor, Henry Lisk. But I did that because Mr. Besam, at one road maintenance seminar, he said, you should be proud to point our fingers at a project that you will be involved in, so that in future you can say I was part of this project. And that is where I took my inspiration from. So whatever I do, I try, any project you took me on, any work you give me, I try to do it well, so that in future I can point my finger and say that I was part of that project. The problem that we have with the engineers' allowances and others is because goods and services item is the least disbursed. Allocation is small in the first place, and that is the least disbursed. So it's all the time a problem to get fuel for supervisors to go around to do supervision works, get money for engineers to repair their vehicles, pay allowances for our engineers. So I believe that it's something that the ministry should sit down and think of and maybe make provision. The road fund is there. If it is possible, a portion of the road fund can be set aside for project supervision, because why do you have to award projects running in billions of Ghana cedis, but you do not have monies for supervision? So I will discuss with my minister and see if it is possible the Ghana Road Fund can assist engineers to supervise projects. It's so important. And also pay the allowances so that their morale, the workers' morale will be high.
Okay. Honorable Muntaka, you said you have one question.
No, that's not right.
Yeah. He's asking for my glass. This is a friendly fire. The prayer, the Okokotokono, bro. He's my neighbor. I do so. Congratulations. I've always yearned for an opportunity like this to ask an engineer from the Ministry of Roads and Highways the rationale behind those roundabouts in Ejuso. Tech Junction, no Tech Junction, Tech Police Station, and then Odium. It's creating accidents every day, creating so much traffic, yet nobody seems to be able to do anything about it. Can I get schooled on the rationale behind these three roundabouts that is killing us and destroying our property?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Maybe a little bit of history will do. The project was a grant facility from Danida, government of Denmark. The only reason why Denmark government gave us that grant was to improve safety between Konongo and Kumasi. At that time, we have very steep and long slopes. And because the articulators were heavy and find it difficult to climb, they will lose fire and reverse back and cause accidents. The very fast vehicles, the Land Cruisers and the private cars were also speeding, killing people in the various communities. So the government of Ghana agreed that if you want to improve safety between Konongo and Kumasi, then we have to put all the necessary safety measures. So now you see our communities hanging because all those steep long slopes have been cut. Most of the towns are hanging so that we get an acceptable longitudinal slope. And also every community that you reach, you see the speed tables, you see the rumble strips. Now at intersections, the best form of distributing traffic, if it's not too high, the traffic volume, is by roundabouts. But in this particular instance, we told them that the space available was too small, that putting a roundabout there would not be very good for us. At that time, I was the regional highway director in Kumasi, so I was part. They also provided rumble strips initially, which was so high that you cannot even move 3 kilometers per hour on those strips. So we met with them, and I said, our laws allow for 50 kilometers per hour. So bring your rumble strips down so that even vehicles can make 50 kilometers per hour on it. We argued with them severally to get these roundabouts off so that we put traffic signs. But it's because they were giving us grant. They did not agree. So we had to...
If I understand you, the design was by them.
The design was by them. It wasn't done by any of us. And because we agreed that they will improve safety on our roads, and they gave us a grant. It was a grant. It wasn't a loan, a grant. So virtually we had very little say about it. And that is the reason why we have the runabouts. Now that the deferred liability period has exceeded many years, it's left with us to review those intersections to see if we can put maybe traffic signals to make it easier. Because yes, you're right, these articulated trucks, those in our inland landlord countries, when they are negotiating the runabout, it's a problem. And what is even frightening is the stones that have been put there. Most of them thought you don't have to move on it. You have to restrict yourself to the asphaltic surface way. No, but you can move on the stones. But because they are not well educated, they try to restrict themselves to the asphaltic concrete surfaced road just adjacent to where the stones are, and it's creating a lot of problems. So indeed, you are right. We need to have another look at these intersections. It's because you do not have money. It's out of the ground, that's why.
No. But you agree with me, the very safety that they wanted to give on the road is heavily compromised now. Because on the average, I doubt whether a day passes without one vehicle hitting the other or a big truck virtually collapsing on the road and even blocking the road for sometimes a day or two, knowing how busy and how important that road is. But I'm taking consolation in your concluding statement saying that since the guarantee period has expired, maybe you should be able to do something. So we hope that as you head towards the ministry to assist the minister, this will be one of your topmost priority.
Thank you very much. I've taken note of that. But indeed, safety on the road has improved in our villages. People were dying, killing the inhabitants, but because of the speed tables and the urban strips, now those using V8, when they reach there, they slow down. At least our people are safe. Safety has improved, but at the intersections, I agree with you that we need to have another look at them, and we will do that.
Mr. Chairman, from Ejuso, just as you are living in Ejuso, there's supposed to be a ring road that would take you just after Ejuso to hit the other side of the Kumasi to join if you are going to Ejura and the others. It's supposed to go around up to around the lakeside so that it will be a ring road so that you don't have too many people driving into the city. Well, it's been on the drawing board for long. I hope that as you head towards that ministry, you make this a priority so that your ministry will construct this road to ease the traffic flow into Kumasi, especially towards the evening and in the morning. I don't know what you think about that ring road, whether it's no longer useful. Maybe that's why it's been abandoned.
No, Mr. Chairman, it has not been abandoned. It's still on the drawing board. The Department of Urban Roads, I think, has a memorandum of understanding with a Brazilian company. I had an opportunity to look at the entire ring road. It's about 99 kilometers. The priority link is the one from Ejuso to Kodie. That will be the first one that they have to. The design has been done. It's not because of that. The reason is that most of the heavy traffic that you do get are those that leads to our landlord countries, and they are all the time from the Tema port. So when they reach Ejuso and they make use of the ring road, then they will connect the Tamale road at Kodie, and that's why that portion has been taken care of. And I know it's a project that the Department of Urban Roads wish to have, so that traffic congestion in the city of Kumasi will be reduced. So if you have nothing doing in the center of the city, you use the ring road wherever you reach. If it is the Mampon Road that you want to go, you reach there, there will be a facility that will make you join the Mampon Road. When you reach the Offensive Road, you have the facility. When you reach Obuasi Road. So it's a ring road as you indicated, and it's something that will be pursued.
Chairman, maybe just last but one. When you are entering Kumasi, we are just talking about ease of traffic. Just at Silicon Hotel, there's this road that cuts into Asokoromampong. I think the culverts has even been done. What we call bridge. I think about 2 or 3 of them has already been done. And the contract has been awarded. But I don't know what is causing the delay. Can we get your assurance that as part of easing the traffic into Kumasi in the morning and evening, this road you pay attention to ensure that it's done to open up the easy access into Kumasi and its environs?
Well, the ministry has not cancelled or suspended any ongoing project. So I believe once the project is ongoing, it will be taken care of. So it's a promise.
Last, and I don't want any comment from either the chairman or Collins or Kankam or Eugene or Bantima. I don't want any comment. Can you assure this committee and Parliament that all the uncompleted projects for Aswansi constituency will get completed?
Honorable Onomni, if you don't want to answer that question, I won't push you. Yes, very biased comment, because he knows why. He knows why it is biased, and he knows why he was asking the Kumasi MPs not to comment. Do you want to ask any question? Okay. My colleagues don't want to ask questions, but I'm interested in priority roads. I think we don't have money to cover everyone, but every one of the roads that are necessary, but prioritizing those that are critically essential. The central spine, dualization, what do you think we should do to finalize it?
I believe the remaining stretch, the dualization of the central spine, can be done by our local contractors. I will advise the minister that even if you award 10 kilometers, we select 3 contractors, very good ones, and we award 10 kilometers each to them every year. We should be able to get somewhere. So it should be continued, it's necessary, and I will recommend to the minister that we should do it with our own local contractors, and they will be able to do it, because most of them now have asphalt plants, and they should be able to do it for us.
That's positive discrimination, I agree with you. But I'm looking at also the link between KGTS Santasi towards Anyang Kwanta. Now it's become one of the most passing through shares, right? That is the most difficult road to traverse. As soon as you going from Kumasi, as soon as you leave where the dual carriage ends at Ahenema Kokobing, it is difficult to move at all. And then when you're coming, now in the last 6 months or so, if I'm at Bekwai, I want to come to Kumasi. If I don't leave Bekwai at 5 a.m., I won't start until after 9, because you spend about 1 hour between the junction, Amam and Ahenema Kokobing. A distance which the whole distance from Kumasi to Bekwai is to do it 25 minutes. Now that portion alone can take you 1 hour. I don't know what plans you have. That is the national, what is it, N4 or something? That link is a national road.
Yeah, it's a national road.
So what is the plan for that?
The traffic levels on that road has increased tremendously. And it's about time the portion that was dualized up to Ahenema Kokobing is extended to maybe Pechi number 2, so that you can take more traffic. It needs widening to dual carriageway on the other side, 2 lanes on the other side. There are a lot of settlements along that road also. It's important that we take the trotros and the taxis off the main carriageway, so that if you can have a service road on the side of the dual carriage on the other side, then that takes care of the trotros and the taxis so that traffic flow will be good. So I'll suggest to the minister that we should have a look at that road. First, we widen it and provide service roads on the other side so that we can ease the congestions that we do have. Indeed, you can spend an hour there if you are from Kumasi. I was going for a funeral at Fomena. I spent 1.5 hours between Kumasi and Anyankwanta. So it's a road that we need to look at. And I'll make a suggestion to my minister.
I'm asking a last one. I want to draw attention to all the places where we need to pay attention. On the Sunyani Road, where the town of So, yes, the toll booths. Can't we expand them about four on the side so that we save time, length of time? And on the same Techiman Road, you have the same challenge, the pile-up of vehicles. I'm asking you this question, not the minister, because I know that you will be able to, at the committee level, you have done so much work that information is readily available to you, and you should be able to assist the minister to do the right thing. But will you consider expanding the toll booths, the number that we serve at a time, the number of lanes available, so we can reduce the length of time we spend to pay our toll booths?
Mr. Chairman, it's important. Indeed, we have a lot of traffic congestion at approaches of the toll booths. What we need to do is to provide more lanes, about 3 or 4, as you suggested, on the approaches of the toll booths so that you can ease traffic. I'm sure most of our toll stations need to be rebuilt. Those areas that you are talking of is just a small structure at the median. But if you put up a toll plaza and we increase the number of lanes, it will be attractive to even motorists so that payment of tolls will be very frequent. As it is now, you're right, that is bringing a lot of traffic congestion and we need to work on it. I will speak with the minister and also have a look at all such toll stations so that we ease traffic on the approaches of the toll booths.
Well, that's the end of the questioning. Are there any dignities to be acknowledged?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The nominee has said that he will advise his minister. Fortunately, the minister is here. He has said everything. So I think from here you go and implement. Mr. Chairman, in attendance to support the nominee, Mrs. Stella Owusu Aduomi, the spouse of the nominee. Nanaya Asantewa II, Ejoso Mai, Omahima of Ejoso. Nana Prempe Shiamai Asamahini. Nana Trewa Bempoma Insuta Kruwi Hema.
They're drawing the curtain on Kwabena Aduome's vetting. That is Deputy Roads and Highways Minister Designate there. Well, we're still in Parliament. We do know today that they've postponed to tomorrow the approval of the Joe Garte Investigative Committee report into allegations of bribery against some members of the Appointment Committee. The House was expected to debate on the report for approval today after Joe Garte laid it before the House. We can listen to the interaction between Speaker of Parliament Professor Michael Quay and Majority Leader Oseche Mensah-Bonsu.
50, but members need to be set to pause through the 50-page documents, and I guess because it concerns all of us, we could then take the motion relating to that tomorrow.
Very well. We shall postpone that to tomorrow accordingly, because I saw the Honorable Minister leave. Therefore, I was wondering. Motion number 22 will be adjourned till tomorrow. Yes, Honorable Majority Leader, what next?
Speaker, if I may, the other reports relating to the Electoral Commission and Parliament.
Motion numbered.
Mr. Speaker, we are finished with them, but they are still processing them. So
not ready.
I guess we could suspend sitting for about an hour and a half and come back at 2 o'clock. Come back at 2 o'clock to continue. The Finance Committee is also working on the value-added tax amendment bill and also the energy sector levies amendment bill. I guess by the time we resume, those ones as well will be ready. So, Mr. Speaker, subject to your indulgence and that of my colleagues, I would propose that we suspend sitting until 2 o'clock in the afternoon today.
Honorable minority, I hope there's no difficulty with that.
Mr. Speaker, I support the position taken by the leader. We should suspend and then come back, by which time the report would have been ready for the House to work on 2 o'clock.
Well, Mr. Osei Mensah Bonsu has been offering further explanations, but Joseph Opoku-Gakpo, our parliamentary correspondent, is standing by in Parliament right now. We can link up with him. Hello, Gakpo.
Hello, Gifty.
Yes, we just played the interaction between the majority leader and the Speaker of Parliament. Take us through what next transpired in Parliament.
You know, initially, the outline of activities for the day, the idea was that this particular report, after it's been laid, per parliamentary rules, it requires that at least they give a duration of 48 hours before then the House can debate the said report. And so what was expected is that they would open it up after members have read the document. The various members of Parliament will make contributions on what they think of the report. We'll hear from the leadership in terms of the majority and also the minority before eventually an approval is given. Ordinarily, that needs to take 48 hours after the report has been laid. But per the outline of business for today, the indication was that Parliament was going to waive off that particular provision. So let me just read briefly from a document of Parliament that's supposed to spell out the outline of activities. The expectation was that, notwithstanding the provisions of parliamentary procedures, that no motion is debated until 48 hours have passed. This document indicated that the report on the Bribery and Allegation Committee's report was going to be debated today, but eventually the majority leader indicated that because of its voluminous nature, they would have to give it a bit of time, for MPs to really understand it before they put it out. They've also been concerned that this report has taken too much time. The committee was given 4 weeks to complete its work. It's been almost 8 weeks already. The majority leader, Osei Mensah Bonsu, is of the view that it's not so much of a big deal. They are just looking forward to the debate on it tomorrow and the subsequent approval. We can take a listen to the majority leader, Osei Mensah Bonsu. He's been interacting with the media.
Have laid the document. I'm advised by the chairman of the committee that is a voluminous document, and that the pages run to close to 50 pages. And if that is so, we don't want to rush members. So it's been laid, it's going to be distributed. Members will have the day to peruse the document, and when we meet tomorrow, we'll discuss it in detail. Right? So that is the appeal that I made to members. I don't want us to hurry through, and people will begin to say that, oh, such a huge document. We do not even afford members the opportunity to go through the documents. So that is what is intended to be done. It will be distributed, and members will have the opportunity to peruse it thoroughly. And tomorrow when we come to dealing with it, then we know that we've done a thorough job. Yeah. I have no inkling about what is contained in it as of yet, but when it's distributed, I have my copy. I also want to go through its entirety and be able to contribute in a very meaningful way.
Yeah. Given the huge public interest in this matter, couldn't the report, for instance, have been made available to members, say, yesterday before today?
You should know the processes in Parliament. You should lay it first before you avail it to members. he wants to deal with an inverse proportion. I don't know why you are doing that.
It's
first laid, and once it's laid, it's distributed to members. You can't distribute before, laying the document on the floor. It's not done.
Something is taking forever, and we give deadlines as to when we hope to have it out, and then we shift it by a day or two.
What is taking forever?
The publication of the reports.
It's taking forever.
As in, it's taking too much time.
How?
But
the time has expired. What 30 days? The time that was given. What 30 days?
Initially,
what's been done before
you should ask whether it is 30 working days or 30 calendar days. You are not even probing that. Thank you very much. Is the House right? Likely. Not very likely. They are outstanding matters, so it does appear that we may have to push ourselves to next week. We are in conversation with colleagues on the other side, and I hope we shall come to some understanding on that.
Well, that is the majority leader there interacting with the media, including Joseph Opoku Gakpo, who is still standing by in Parliament for us to continue that discussion. Gakpo, we've seen how he tries to answer the questions. So obviously, the content are unknown at this point, but you are in Parliament. Is there anything that we can know from what the content will possibly be?
Indeed, it's been difficult getting details on what exactly the committee has recommended in its report. Well, although the said report has been laid, some other indications are that finishing touches are still being put to it. Efforts are ongoing to get the input of leadership both on the majority and the minority side. As far as the report is concerned, all are waiting for them to complete a review of the documents before eventually it will be gotten to the printing department, and then copies will be made available to members of parliament. So even in interactions with members of parliament, a lot of them are also anxiously awaiting what the specific recommendations and outcome of this particular report will be. There are three things that we all know that the committee was supposed to investigate. First of all, they've been asked to establish whether the chairman of the Appointments Committee, Joseph Osei-Wusu, took any money from the then Energy Minister Designate Boachie Jacko and gave to the Minority Chief Whip Muntaka Mubarak to be distributed to members of the Appointments Committee. That's the first term of reference that they are supposed to look at. The second is for them to establish whether there was an attempt to bribe members of the Appointments Committee. And the third mandate of the committee is to investigate the merits or otherwise of some complaints and assertions that the chairman of the Appointments Committee, Joe Osei-Wusu, had made, that his image had been defamed to a certain extent. Those are the things that they are looking into. There have been questions about whether any evidence was actually provided by those who made the allegation to back the said claim that they made, because the talk is that evidence is the name of the game, beyond just the radio rhetoric and the comments that were made in front of the committee members when the public sittings were actually made. Those are the areas that we hope to look at. Indications are that, well, no substantial additional evidence actually went, but I'm sure eventually when the outcome of the committee's report is published, we will know what exactly they are recommending and what their findings were.
So far, 8 weeks used so far. We're looking at 50 pages and all the explanations that are being given on the floor of Parliament. What has been the minority's response, briefly?
Essentially, everyone is actually just waiting for this. I've been interacting with some members of the Appointments Committee who are actually at the center of this. They have concerns, for example, that even when the initial draft of the report was ready, them being the key actors at the center of this, the expectation was that they should have at least been given heads up before then the document was eventually put together. But they're also still waiting for the specific outcomes of the committee's recommendations.
I see. Well, we also know, finally, before you go, that the vetting has been ongoing. We just saw the Kwabna Adume one just wrap up. What else do we know about the vetting? If you could just summarize it briefly for me.
And so he is actually the fourth person who appeared before the committee. Earlier in the morning, one of the deputy ministers designate for energy William Orekwedu, who is also the current chairman of Parliament's Energy and Mines Committee, appeared before the committee. He answered a range of questions relating to how the energy sector should be managed going forward. The second person to appear was Godfrey Dame, who is also one of the deputy ministers for Attorney General. And then another deputy minister designate for Attorney General, Joseph Pemba, also appeared before the committee. He answered questions about what he thinks can be done to help deal with illegal mining and how to ensure an effective enforcement of the law to deter people from engaging in some of those activities. And he assured that he will work closely with officials of his ministry and also his minister to ensure those who engage in some of those activities are brought to book. He also commented on the concerns about vigilante groups belonging to political parties which have sprung up and which to a certain extent is posing security threat to the nation. And again, he thinks that an effective enforcement of the law would help deal with that. Kwabena Osu-Ediomi just finished his vetting. The next person who is expected to appear before the committee is Madam Patricia Appiah-Jay, who is the Member of Parliament for the Asuka constituency and also Deputy Minister Designate for Environment, Science and Technology. She is a member of the Appointments Committee herself, and she's also chairperson of the Environment, the Local Government Committee in Parliament. So the expectation is that her vetting wouldn't drag for a very long time. It may round up sometime soon for the committee to rise for today, and look forward to the work ahead tomorrow.
Okay, thank you so much, Joseph Opoku Gakpo. There, our man in Parliament, standing by and giving us all of those details there. You're still here with me on the pulse. I'm going to take a very quick break. Well, when I return, I'm going to engage in a very interesting discussion. What is it that makes a nation great? Is it prayer, hard work, smart work, or all? I tell you, I've got someone in the studio, Chairman and General Secretary of the Christian Council will be joining me for that conversation. You don't want to miss it. Please stay.